Today on the show, Thomas Massie loses his primary. A data center in New Jersey has been taken off the table, and there's a meteor, all sorts of fun stuff. And I think I'll conclude with a little bit of a riff on the MLB labor negotiation talks. So, without any further rambling before the show, I'm your host, Sal Assante. This is the We the Patriots podcast. Let's get right into it. So, as we kind of talked about last show, and I took a little breather for no good reason last week, so back here after a couple weeks, Thomas Massie lost, and I was wrong in saying it was a couple weeks away. It was literally like 3 days after I recorded the show. Thomas Massie lost to Ed Galrine, I believe, or Galrin or something, the most expensive Congress seat ever in the history of the United States and politics here. So, absolute craziness. There was a concession given by Massie on the stand where he claimed that he had to call Tel Aviv to concede his race. It's really just, it's blasphemous. If you look at the breakdown of the voting, it was pretty much exactly what you'd expect in a way. Basically, anybody under 50, I think, or under 40 was pretty well supportive of Thomas Massie, and anybody that was over that 50-year-old range was heavily in favor of that guy, Ed Galrine. It was, there's a bunch of funny commenters that went on it. I think Tim Dillon had one of the best ones. Obviously, him being a comedian makes it funny, but it was genuinely, it was good. They tried to play an ad. The ad didn't even have a word from Ed Galrine and was all Trump hyping him up and talking about a handshake. It was just ridiculous. So all in all, I don't want to kind of belabor this point because I think there's other things to talk about, and I'm kind of just ranting today. But to see that one of the most nationally popular congressman that is in the Congress currently and will be until next January, to see him lose in the way that he did, to have a massive amount of money funneled into the race, a lot of money from not only outside of the district, but seemingly outside of the country, with the involvement of AIPAC in the election, it's disappointing. And it also, I think, kind of bolsters the point that we need to have a change in the system of the way that money is involved in politics. For the people that like to say that money shouldn't be involved in politics, that's just not possible. It sucks to say it, but the genuine, realistic truth on the ground is that if there is not money that's allowed on the face and out front and being disclosed to the public, then there's going to be a lot of backroom deals that we all know still happen, but those backroom deals are going to be the only way that money gets funneled, and it gets dirtier. So, you can make the complaints about Citizens United and the ability for these large PACs to be formed and stuff like that. I can side with you there. I will just say that as soon as, or if it ever does get overturned, that decision, or if money is taken away from the sense that, it's limited even more so how much an individual or a company or one of these PACs is allowed to donate or contribute or what have you, then it just gets darker. It goes behind the scenes. And I personally think that things get uglier. So I think there needs to be a solution come about by people that are smarter than myself. However, I do think I'm not incorrect. And I think that it may take a little bit of intelligence to see, but I genuinely feel like things will not get better if quote unquote money is taken out of politics. I think it actually has a potential of leading to a worse outcome than what we're seeing right now. So I'd like to see some better proposals. I'd like to see other proposals, I should say, that are not in the mainstream right now. It's not just taking money out of politics. It's not, we need to get better billionaires on our side, like we saw in 24 when Elon Musk donated a hell of a lot of money. There's also a lot of money from someone like Miriam Adelson, who was very significant in her role that she played with ousting Thomas Massie in the primary. I think that there needs to be if I had to give my honest and hopeful proposal, I think that it wouldn't be limiting the money, but I think it would be more transparency. Having every single dollar amount that they received, if it was a conglomeration or from a PAC, because a lot of that stuff is not donated directly to the candidate, but is ads that are put on and run by these PACs. I think that money should be, maybe on the ballot as you're voting. People will say that'll confuse the ballot, be too much going on, and I hear you. But so many of us are voting on a computerized screen anyway. why not have more information? Why not have an ability to look up like a Google while you're voting? Something like that would be my proposal, because at the end of the day, I'm just going to keep saying it, but I think that money in politics, at least the way that it is right now, it's pretty transparent. You can go look it up if you want to. You do have to do the legwork and go find it out, but at least it exists. So with that said, it's very disappointing from my part to see Thomas Massie, one of my favorite congressmen that's in the Congress right now, be taken out. But maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe he has a bigger calling in the future coming, whether that is some sort of senatorial run, whether that is for a higher office or a cabinet seat under someone. Who knows? But maybe there's a silver lining somewhere down the road. Let's hope for it. Now, moving on to something that I either talked about last episode or 2 episodes ago. I can't tell at this point. It's been a while and I apologize, but the data center thing. The thing that's going to be crushing all of us and taking all of our power and our water and leaving us all out to dry. There was a good development actually based out of my home state, New Jersey, and actually one of the towns that I'm very familiar with, and that is Andover, New Jersey. And that development is that, and I know I mentioned this, that there was a data center that was proposed to go up. People got into the whatever it was, town council, town meeting, whatever, and they actually got themselves to rid it and get rid of the proposal. The proposed data center is no longer going in. And not only that, they allegedly have stopped further proposals for data centers in that town. And that's amazing. The whole AI thing, I think, has gone out of control. It goes from one thing where it's consolidating information for you. You're able to do research faster. You can try to, pull up articles or try to find information that you wouldn't have otherwise found. And you may call that a good use of AI. It's basically an enhanced Google. And I think it gets to a further point where we are now, where AI is being used in drone targeting, in wars. It is being used to spy on our own citizens. It is being used to build a database on every single American and basically put us into a computer as if we are ones and twos and make us into just a number on the government ledger. Not that we weren't that already, but making it more so, turning us into just robots, essentially. We are already, in a way, just slaves for the machine, and making it worse with this AI stuff. I think it's reached a point now where it needs to be scaled back. Whether you want to talk about what I just talked on with the amalgamation of the information on us, whether you're talking about the spying, whether you're talking about utilizing it in areas of war and it makes mistakes, it attacks civilians, it attacks schools, it attacks hospitals, whatever, or whether you want to talk about the really scary stuff where you're seeing the video creation or the photo creation, making things seem as if they were real and putting people in positions that they do not really have an opportunity to fend for themselves. Some people losing jobs, some people losing family members over, stuff that is fake, stuff that is generated by AI. There are many different aspects of the AI debate that I think teeter on the edge of this being a technology that is maybe not the most beneficial for us as human beings and for the world in general. Something that was interesting that came out, the Pope actually wrote an encyclical on AI and the human interaction with technology. I did not get all the way through it. It is long as hell. It does not need to be as long as it did. That being said, I'd like to have a good friend John on the show to kind of talk about that in the next few weeks. With that said, I think that it was pivotal. We'll see just how impactful it is, but from what I understand and people that are in the business of being on, hiring, firing teams and HR and stuff like this, where many of them are not the best for companies' production and whatnot, but hearing some of them talk about the fact that if someone is to cite that they do not want to utilize AI at their job, at their employment, and they're citing religious reasons and using the encyclical to do so, can't be fired. And I think that that is, if utilized by people, by workers around the country, it could be a massive change in the way that things have been going over the past few years. So we will see. We will see how it progresses, how it makes the kind of technological advancement, and see if it, hinders the speed, see if it causes, infighting, what have you. But this whole AI thing has gone, I think, off the walls. And if I could find the video, I want to play it for you right now. And yeah, so if I find it, it's here. If not, I'm going to keep rambling.
Artificial intelligence is the next industrial revolution.
From a tech business executive to a music industry titan, AI clearly striking a sore spot.
AI is rewriting production as we sit here. Deal with it. Like I said, it's a tool.
At the University of Arizona, former Google CEO Eric Schmidt faced loud jeers on the topic.
The question is whether you will help shape artificial intelligence. We do not know.
The speaker.
And it's, when you have young kids like this, who, if you saw the video, or even if you haven't seen the video, if you're just listening to this, it's a bunch of college kids that are booing someone at their commencement speech that is mentioning AI and talking about it as if it's the future. And, we're already living in this time. We, as in my generation, and I would say even the generation above us and the millennials, and especially the ones beneath us, the younger generations, we're already living in this world where things are kind of upside down. You work all of your childhood and young adulthood to go and get a piece of paper from a college. That degree may have cost you a significant amount in student loans. You're behind the eight ball there. Going and trying to afford a home is further and further out of reach seemingly every single day. And now you're being told that your job very well might be taken by a robot. It's not something that I think kids are fond of, as I think can be seen in these videos or heard in these videos. But I think that it's really an amazing turning point that, going against technology, and a lot of people will be upset, especially that it's the Catholic Church that's doing it, because in a lot of cases they are deemed as anti-science, or they're deemed as anti-technology or something like this. But I think that it's really important. Again, I can't even tell you the entirety of this encyclical that was written, so I may be saying basically what every corner store person is going to tell you about this, and I may be wrong. That being said, I think that there has reached a turning point, especially with young people, that we're sick of it. And a lot of people in different positions than myself who are, based in an office, have been promised this life that may never get to them. And a lot of it due to AI, are tired of the fact that they've invested so much of their time and may have nothing to show for it. So, this could be a huge turning point. It may be coming back to reality in terms of wanting to actually have human beings at the helm, and kind of getting us back to a point of working on this world in our country specifically to push forward for the human beings that live in it, and not always for corporations, not pushing for the next version of technology every single time. And maybe trying to consolidate and reach a good point where we're at now. So we'll see what happens. Again, I hope that I got that video for you guys. If not, I very much implore you to go and look up these videos of the commencement speeches where people are getting booed when they talk about AI, because to me, it's awesome to watch these people getting booed off the stage, because they don't really have a grasp on what the younger generation is feeling. So with that said, one thing was very interesting. My girlfriend was up in Boston this weekend and said she heard a boom. What the hell was it? It turned out to be a meteor that crashed allegedly, from what I understand, in the ocean off the shore from Connecticut, Massachusetts, and it was heard all over the place over there. So really just insane. Very lucky, of course, that it landed in the ocean and didn't hit a town, a city, or anything like that. But I think that, if anything, it's one more of those reasons that when we talk about the possibility of protecting our world, our country, but more specifically the world, from existential threats, and one of those is meteors. And it's something that, for years I've listened to people like Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson and many other people. I believe it's from the Comet Impact Study Group or something along those lines. I'm definitely getting that wrong. I don't remember the name. But report after report saying that we go through this essentially asteroid field, this meteor field, every single year, and there is a chance that we get hit. We've been getting really, really lucky as of the last 5,000, 10,000 years, and we need to be prepared. There's opportunities from companies that are looking to go and mine these asteroids or going to shift these asteroids by tapping them in the sky and all of these different things. But it's so crazy that something like this, like I would have had no idea probably if it wasn't for my girlfriend being up there. So really just pure craziness that came out of the Boston and Massachusetts area this week. And yeah, just stay on the lookout. See if it wakes anybody up or if it even really gets talked about. I haven't heard too much about it, so odds are people are not probably taking it as seriously as we probably should. That being said, maybe you should. Maybe you should start that conversation with your friends, with your coworkers, and what have you. And I wish I had more news for you on the Iran war. For now, it looks like exactly the same crap, boistering on both sides, and nobody wants to make a move. I'll update you as we get it. But for now, what I want to finish the rant on today is one of my favorite topics. So if you don't like baseball, I appreciate you checking in. You can check out right now. If you love baseball or you love sports and you love sports business in a way, stay in here for the next 5-10 minutes because I do want to talk about this. Now, the first round of negotiations, or the first proposals, I should say, have come out from both the MLB and the MLB Players Union. What does this mean? Well, if you are paying attention to it and you want to follow every update, I highly suggest that you don't. And here's why. These first proposals were meant to be outlandish, right? The whole point, like, you could go read someone like Donald Trump's book. Not that I've been endorsing him very much lately, but The Art of the Deal. The whole point is you go in with an astronomical ask and you negotiate down to what you actually wanted out of the deal. And you don't tell them in the first place what you're looking at of the deal. And that's what these first proposals were. So just to highlight it, what the Players Union proposed, they were the first ones to propose, was that there would be essentially a floor, but a soft floor, a tax that would be implemented on the lower spending teams. There would be no salary cap, and they want to boost what the players are earning at the youngest ages. And what the MLB came back with was a hard cap, hard floor. So not tax implications to be paid out to other teams, but actually hard cap, hard floor, and a slight lesser raise to the players' wages that are on the bottom. Now, why do I feel as though these are ridiculous? Well, let's talk about the Players Union first of all, and why I think you shouldn't be paying attention. Anybody in their right mind, and I mean that genuinely, anybody in the right mind who sees a proposal from a players union that is in any sport, baseball being the only sport right now that doesn't have a salary cap, so keep that in mind. But in any sport, all of these, of the top four sports, whatever, the big four sports, the three that have the salary cap, basketball, football, and hockey, they also have a salary floor. It is impossible to have a salary cap and not have a salary floor. Now, I don't have the best understanding as to why that is, but the whole point being is that you are trying to level the playing field by evening out the amount of money that's spent. Now, the teams that are bringing in revenue and have the ability to spend well above that cap, but they can't because there's a cap, are going to be giving money to the teams that don't have the highest revenue, and the teams with the lower revenue are going to be able to spend upwards. Now, one thing that I think I can say fairly confidently is that a proposal with just a floor and no cap has a problem, because you're actually going to be taxing or taking money away from teams that are on the lower end of the revenue spectrum. Think in baseball, Miami Marlins, the Chicago White Sox, Milwaukee Brewers, and you're taxing them for not reaching a threshold of spending, but you're not actually implicating the teams that are spending a lot of money. What does that do? It actually separates what people are all looking for in their sports, and that's parity, right? Like the fans of the team, being the Chicago White Sox, want their team to have the same chance of winning a World Series as the New York Yankees. And at the bottom line, that's what the fans want. That doesn't mean that it's possible. It doesn't mean it's ever really going to happen. But that is what the fans want. And they want at least the semblance of it being possible. In that proposal where there's a floor and there's no ceiling, you're actually hurting the teams on the bottom more than you're hurting the teams on the top. And the whole point of having something like a salary cap at salary floor is to bring the teams closer together, have more parity, even though I will note the sport with the most parity, and it's not even close, especially over the past 25 years, has been baseball. For the first time in, I think it's 26 or 27 years since the Yankees in 99 and 2000, for the first time in that whole time, we have had a champion in the sport in back-to-back years. So that goes to say, that is not the case for any of the other major sports. And that just goes to show that there is way more parity in the League of Baseball than there is in the other major sports. So the proposal that came from the players' union is ridiculous for that sense. Number one, they want to double the salary at the lowest level. I mean, and a lot of people that I see that are out on social media are upset about it because, well, not upset, I should say they're very much in favor of it. And it's like almost like we're supposed to feel bad for these people who are getting paid millions and millions of dollars to play a children's game. And I just don't. I'm sorry. That doesn't mean I'm on the owner's side of things in general. I am for some things. I'm on the player's side for other, but I just can't get upset at people not earning enough money when they're earning $700,000 at a minimum. I can't possibly get upset, and I don't want you to try to convince me to be upset because it's impossible. So I don't see it as possible to get people riled up once they actually see the numbers, because they look at their own situation and it's ridiculous. So that proposal is ridiculous from the players' union. That doesn't make the owner's proposal any better. Doubling that salary and a floor without a ceiling, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Now, why is the owner's proposal or the MLB's proposal so ridiculous as well? Well, number one, it raises the cap up, I believe, to like 150,000. Wow, 150,000 wouldn't do anything. $150 million at the floor, and it caps it at, I think, 250,000. And I could be wrong there, but I believe that's what it is. And the problem with that is you have, I think, like 6, 7, maybe even 8 teams that are already spending well above that. A lot of them around that $300 million mark. And they would, be grandfathered in and have to come down? I just don't think that's really possible. And you're essentially doubling the salary for about 5 or 6 other teams to get them up to that point. So I just don't think that it's feasible to institute that over the year. And it's ridiculous in the sense that this is obviously a first proposal meant to negotiate from. If it was to actually reach what its probably end goal is going to be, you're probably looking at a floor somewhere around $100 million. You're probably looking at a cap somewhere around 300. And over time, they would come a little closer together to try to get parity, is my guess. But obviously, these things were just thrown out to get the negotiating started and show that, this is our starting point. We're never going to see those deals actually on the table and agreed to. So that's why I say, don't even worry about it. And at the end of the day, this will be my last point here. There is going to be a lockout. If you don't know what a lockout is, it means that there's going to be a point where there's no agreement reached and all transactions are going to stop. There's going to be no free agent signings. There's going to be no trades. There very well may be missed games. I'm assuming there's going to be missed games. At the end of the day, it's going to happen. This is what happens when you have unions. This is what happens when you have big corporations like this. It's going to happen. Just be prepared for it. And I honestly think that you are better off not trying to follow every single update, because it's just going to be this ridiculous back and forth. And honestly, using you as a baseball fan to try to pick a side and win in the court of public opinion, where public opinion doesn't fucking matter at the end of the day. Excuse my language. It just doesn't matter. They're going to be doing a deal in their best interest, both the owners and the players, and there's nothing really any of us can do about it. So keep that in mind. The whole baseball scenario is going to be what it is, and we're not going to find out till, at a minimum, we're not going to have a deal on the table till probably December, January, is my guess. Hit me in the comments if you think I'm an idiot. If you think I'm totally wrong, I would love to know what you're thinking. Hit me in the comments if you love the show, and leave a like and subscribe. And I love you all very much. And I promise I will be back next week. Peace out.
Wish I were the fucking state. I wanna be something, not nothing. Trapped inside my dream and I'm running away from these demons. But the feeling's so good, I'ma keep dreaming.